Today, I'm going to talk about self acceptance. And I'm going to have this conversation because I think that we are sitting on our gold mines, that we barely understand our worth because we never take the time to reflect and acknowledge who we are and what we are capable of. And that we often miss our triggers and miss our opportunities and step into traps that would have been avoided had we taken the time to acknowledge that I have a phobia around this thing, that I have an anxiety around this person or this relationship, that I'm worried about my limitations, and that I'm actually capable of doing this other thing. When you understand who you are, the strengths, the weaknesses, the triggers, the anxieties, the highs and the lows that embody you, that is a skill and a gold that can elevate you to the heights that you never thought of and that can help you manage your shortcomings, pick the areas of growth, understand how you step all over people and how other people can step all over your boundaries. Self awareness is not only amazing for your own self growth, self love, and self acceptance, but is extremely valuable in how you cope around others, how you come across, how you understand what they say to you. Because sometimes we misunderstand people and feel misunderstood because we don't even know our own strengths, we don't know our own weaknesses, we don't know how we come across, whether we trample all over them or we let them trample all over us. For us to be able to break down this topic as we do on this channel, I'm going to use the animal role play that you may or may not have heard about. I'm sure at one point of your life, you've heard someone tell you to pick an animal that best describes you. And this is a beautiful example of self reflection. Because by picking an animal, you are recognizing yourself or some characteristics of yourself in that animal. It helps you to see you from a distance, to think about things, to describe you, to reference that animal's values and skills and activities to you, thereby accepting that this is who I am, this is how I manifest, this is what triggers me, this is my footprint, and this is what I need to change and what I need to accept, and these are my amazing qualities. Let's take the elephant for an example. And what I need you to do with your animal of choice is to pick 3 of its amazing qualities. So the elephant is a giant. It is mighty. It is one of the huge, respected and feared animals in the jungle. And those are its strengths. But at the same time, if we want to look at the weaknesses of the animal, you find that some of its strength poses its weakness. It tramples all over its vegetation. Therefore, before long, doesn't have anything to eat because it has ruined its own feeding ground. It scares all the lovely friends that would have wanted to play with it just by its huge footprint, not its intention. And so its power is its weakness. And if you start to reflect on your animal by stating its strength and stating its weakness and flipping its strength and flipping its weakness, you will see that self-acceptance, self-understanding, and self-reflection is a huge value. You will see that all the things that we deny of ourselves, that we minimize and we think that diminish us can also be our strength. Take the dog, for example. It's loyal, it's kind, it knows a baby, it knows its master, it does its service. But at the same time, those qualities that are beautiful and describe it can also be its shortcoming. You become the doormat when you serve and serve and serve and let people sit you down, lock you up, tell you when to eat. And you tweak those, you acknowledge your strengths. You know when people are pushing your boundaries as the dog, the servant. And you know when you're honest, tolerant, available, kind, and safety provider for your network as the dog. And that's what self-acceptance means. And those who seek perfection can therefore start to see from this exercise that it is vain. Because if your best qualities also in one way or the other present a weakness, and your weakest qualities present a strength, because sometimes selfishness is protective, anxiety is a warning that can teach you to be cautious. But if you only see it as crippling, as limiting, you're missing the signs. You're missing your strength as the elephant. You're missing the scorched earth that your footprint creates. And as mighty and feared as you are, what footprint does that mighty, arrogant strength leave behind? And what value does that weak, innocent weakness, that thing that you minimize, give you? That minefield unexplored that you're sitting on. So how can we use this to our advantage? How can you create self-awareness? How can you boost self-awareness? And how can you use it to manifest differently for yourself and for those around us? Because nobody lives in an island. What you claim, what you manifest, what you believe impacts not just on you and your activities, but those around you, how you come across, how you show up in relationships, how you let those people treat you, and everything else that encompasses you. My name is Asa, and I welcome you warmly to my corner here at Clear Minds and Self Healing. I appreciate my returning subscribers, and I encourage you, if you're watching for the first time, to subscribe and join me here. I share content every week around self-growth, self-love, self-acceptance. I do this from my example, from my point of view, from my job experience, to give my own little bit to the world and to help you grow from my point of view. You may see it the way I see it, or you may not. Either way, you're welcome, and I'm happy to learn with you. So how do you improve your self-awareness? How can you expand this scope and understanding of who you are so that you can really be able to moderate and manage your life better? By meditating. Often we get to the end of a project or we start one without taking that time to really pan over it and explore what we are capable of, what we need to learn, who we need to ask for help. Because the only way you can decide that I'm going to knock on this door and ask for this is because you've reflected that they are better in that area than you, and you accept it as okay. And then you use your own areas of strength to magnify those, and you identify your areas of growth. You look at meditation as that mirror of reflection where you acknowledge that you didn't do enough, or that the people you chose misled you. And that's the only way you can start to change and adjust and learn and grow in yourself. The other thing that can improve your awareness is being open-minded, accepting that you don't know it all, that you don't understand you yet in all the aspects. When we say, I can never eat this or I can never do this, before even experiencing or trying that thing, we are limiting ourselves. Because until you've tried it and you have the experience to wholeheartedly say that I've done it enough times to declare that it's worthless or impossible, you are not being open-minded around that situation, around that person. Ask people for feedback. Ask them to feed back to you how you think you come across, because sometimes we sit in our heads and we think that we are perfect, or we think that we are imperfect and that we are completely incapable and useless. But if you listen to feedback from trusted people, you can start to see yourself through their eyes. And hopefully, that can open up another window of skill or limitation for you to work with. Read books and watch movies. The significance is that we see ourselves through the eyes of the characters. And sometimes it shocks you to recognize those things in them that you didn't think are in you. You bond over that movie. And this is why we cry and lavish over their grief, because we feel through them and we see through them. And oftentimes you grow in that book and that movie, even without taking notice. Understand your core values deeply, because those are the things that we think define us. And like the elephant I quoted, when you claim your strengths, they're real. You're big and you're mighty. But you need to reflect on that blueprint that scorches the earth around you. And that is how you start to see your good and your bad and your ugly and your weakness and the unnoticed. That's what comes up with awareness. And to end this all, let's look at the snake, which has now come to define insult, for lack of trust, for backbiting, and for unsafe. The snake, which is an animal that actually runs from trouble, sits in its own path until attacked. Its name itself screams evil. It screams lack of trust, because these are the static ways in which we see character, in which we see ourselves. And the whole point of this reflection is to widen your scope of perspective around who you think you are. You're bigger than the strength that you name, and you're smaller than the weakness that you identify. But that's not the end of you, because you can grow if you're able to explore, master, and understand all those little bits and bobs that make who your amazing self is. And that is why I thought we can reflect and grow together using this animal role play. So I'm curious, what is your animal? And please, by all means, tell me two things why you picked that animal. And now, if wishes were horses, what animal would you want to be? I'm curious. I've shared my two with you. I'm the elephant, because you do not even know the half of my strength, and yet I have those weaknesses that I trample on. And I'm the dog, because I serve and I know the puppy and I know the child, and I can bark and I can come out. Now, share, please. Thank you.